6 post office employees have been released in Dutywa in the Eastern Cape following a tense hostage situation. It's believed 4 armed robbers stormed the offices at about 9 o'clock this morning, demanding cash. Police have been on the scene, and we understand a few arrests have been made. Let's get the latest information now, and with the update is my colleague Ronald Masinda, who's been at the scene for several hours now. Ronald, good afternoon. Just tell us the latest now. Has each and every one who was held hostage been freed, and what about the suspects?
Official numbers coming from the SAPS here in the Eastern Cape is that 9 hostages have been released with 1 person, a suspect, arrested. Why? Because there was a lot of confusion earlier, Pradan. From us who've been here for several hours, we saw 6 people rescued, people who were also wearing the attire of the post office. But what we have been told by sources here on the ground is that 3 of the hostages requested that they be blindfolded and handcuffed, pretending to be some of the suspects. So initially we had thought that there were at least 4 suspects behind this particular hostage situation. Turns out that only 1 person has been arrested, 9 hostages released. That 1 person, shortly after the incident, went inside with the forensic team to comb the scene and so on. There was a lot of drama earlier, and it's been a dramatic day also for many people from this town. One of them is Mandela Tafete. Thank you so much, Tata, for ixesha lakho. Ubone ntoni wena?
Imbi kakhulu into endiyibonileyo apha eposini. The benzothatha i-350 zawo, benzofolela ezimali ezi-350, kodwa kasikwazi ungena ngenxa yotsotsi abalapha phakathi ngoba bebedubula kwanto elapha ngaphandle, bebengasebenzi ngaphakathi qha, bebetshabalalisa nalapha ngaphandle napha ngaphakathi. Asiyazi noba yintoni, anayo nemali yokhwela yogoduka kungoku ndilapha. Oko bekusile ndilapha apha eposini ndibukelane nale nto imbi nje.
Alright, ngokuvalelisa ziqhela ukwenzeka izinto eziqhubeka apha?
Hayi, ibiyingqaleko lena besiyibona apha, zange sayibona.
Mandela Tafete, community member here, saying that he came here to the post office as a grant recipient of the 350 social grant. He says he's very disappointed what has taken place here. He wants to go home. He doesn't have money to go home. He was hoping to fetch his 350 here. He says that this is very unusual in terms of what they witnessed earlier on at this particular town, but things seem to be returning to normal, in as much as we are still seeing a lot of people standing around near the crime scene.
Yeah, so you got 9 hostages freed, 1 suspect arrested, but I understand that from the police that 2 of the hostages asked to be pretend to be the suspects. Do you know more about that, Ronald? Why would they do that?
So from one of our sources, the concern was for them, they trying to protect their own identity. Perhaps maybe it was the adrenaline rush that was going on in their minds, but they also say that they also fear the community for whatever reason. We don't know, Bratan, and I'm sure that is some of the questions that we'd like to ask. But from the hostages that were released, the ones we saw 6 females. Many of them stepped out of that post office crying, obviously very emotional as to what took place there. But one of our sources, a police source, told us earlier that the suspect, he allegedly threatened to kill himself when those negotiations were taking place, because there was quite a large police presence. Police were standing outside, and we repeatedly saw a negotiator going in and out of the post office, just alerting the police as to what is taking place. And then suddenly we saw this negotiator stepping out with the women that we saw, as well as the men who were handcuffed and blindfolded. We couldn't see their faces. They were escorted in vehicles. I must say that the vehicles that they were escorted in were not police vehicles, so that also raised a bit of suspicion. But what we can confirm, 9 hostages rescued, 1 suspect arrested.
And what about the other suspects? Are they still at large? Do we know anything about the other suspects? Because from the early reports that you gave us, there was more than 1 man involved in this attempted robbery at the post office.
So what we also heard earlier in the day, shortly after 9 o'clock when we arrived here in Dutywa, was that 2 men were seen running away. They escaped. Police are yet to confirm whether or not they were part of this particular incident, but they were seen by a number of people here in the public carrying guns. We are yet to get any official confirmation as to what took place, but reports here also suggest that they could have been robbing elsewhere, not necessarily the post office. That particular suspect that was arrested sought refuge at the post office. He stormed inside the post office and held people at captive. That is when we saw the negotiations start, more police deployment coming as far as Umtata outside of Dutywa. And earlier on we also saw an ambulance parked here, but that was only just briefly. It didn't hang around for too long, but it appears, Pratan, that no one got injured. We are not seeing, any fatalities or any reports of any people who have died from this, but it was really tense, according to many people, even us who saw and witnessed what unfolded over several hours.
Yeah, I saw the last police vehicle behind you leaving there. So the police have left the area. The post office seems to be locked from what I can see behind you there. So it's all returning to calm now and some semblance of normality.
Yes, indeed, some normality, because earlier on people couldn't even walk around here. I mean, we were lucky to give the viewers those visuals, because at a later stage when police were about to close down on this particular suspect, we too were also told to step away. So we've been stationed here ever since, but things are returning to normality. People couldn't even use the court just opposite us. They couldn't go inside and go into other stores because we are in the middle of town. So things are returning to normality. There's been a lot of panic, Bratan, since when we started coming here, people not knowing as to how things will unfold. There were fears that people could die from what we saw earlier on, but it seems like, according to many people here, that they are happy with the way the police conducted this operation, and things have certainly returned to normal.